Hey, what's up guys? I'm Ryan from Extreme Terrain, and today I'm here with the Rough Country 2.5-inch suspension lift kit fitting your 2018 and up Wrangler JL. This is going to be for the budget-minded enthusiast that's looking for a very affordable option to gain them some additional ground clearance. This kit makes it very affordable to lift your Jeep by reusing all of the factory suspension, so we're not spending extra money on buying springs and shocks. Now this kit lifts your Jeep, retains that factory ride quality somewhat, and allows you to fit up to a 35-inch tire, which is going to gain you some additional ground clearance. Now this kit comes with heavy-duty shock brackets and spacers, as well as bump stops and even aftermarket sway bar links. This is everything needed to lift your Jeep and get it back on the road for under $200. Now as far as lift kits go, this is a relatively easy one to install, and there's no drilling or modification required that we need to do to the Jeep. Now as far as these spacer kits go, this is an incredibly affordable option. It's just around $180. I think this is a great way to go, especially if you're not trying to spend a lot of money. One thing I would like to point out is if you plan on running 35s on those stock wheels, you'll want a wheel spacer of at least 1.5 inches. If you're planning on going with aftermarket wheels, you want a back spacing of at least 4.5 inches. Now as far as installation goes, I am going to rate this a 3 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter since we are dealing with suspension. However, expect this to take you about a half a day, and you can get all of this done with basic hand tools. Now with that being said, let's hop into the install. Tools we use for this install: pry bar, 3/8 drive impact, 1/2-inch drive impact, crayon, 6mm Allen key, 3/8 drive extension, an adjustable wrench, dead blow hammer, prying tool, standard and metric wrench set, flathead screwdriver, magnet, 3/8 drive ratchet, 1/4-inch drive ratchet, standard and metric socket set, a ratchet strap, and a torque wrench. So there are two ways that you can do this. You can do it on a lift like we're gonna do it, or you can do it on the ground. Now if you're doing it on the ground, you wanna start with the front, jack it up, support it with jack stands, and take your wheels and tires off. You're gonna need a 22mm socket to take your wheels and tires off. Now we already have ours on the lift. We've already taken our wheels and tires off, so we're gonna start with the splash shield. Splash shield is gonna give us access to the track bar. So this is held in by a series of push pins, and we have 2 screws. We're gonna start with the push pins. We're gonna use a flathead screwdriver to pry out the center, and then remove this from the vehicle. So like I said, you were gonna have 2 screws. You're gonna have one on both sides. We're gonna use an 8mm socket to take those screws out. So we're gonna place a hand on it, take this last screw out, and remove it from the vehicle. So next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take our pole jacks, we're gonna support the axle so we can remove our track bar. So the next thing we're gonna do is remove our track bar where it meets the frame. So we're gonna take a 21mm socket and a 21mm wrench if you have one, or an adjustable. Next thing we're gonna do is remove our sway bar links. Now since we have brand new links to install, we're gonna remove them completely. We're gonna start with where it connects to the sway bar. Use an 18mm socket to get that nut off. After that, we're going to use another 18mm socket to take out the lower bolt. So the next thing we need to do is free up and unplug our axle disconnect. So you're gonna have a spot here at the upper control arm. We're gonna pry that out using a flathead screwdriver, trim panel removal tool, pretty much anything you can find. Once we get that out, we're gonna free this area up right here. And we're gonna unplug this. So the way we're gonna unplug it, you're gonna have this white little locking tab. We're gonna pull that tab all the way back, and that should allow us to unplug it. So next, on the outside of our lower control arm, we're gonna take this nut off. This nut holds our ABS and our brake line. We use a 15mm socket to take that off. After that, we're gonna disconnect our lower shock bolt. So we're gonna use an 18mm wrench for the nut, 18mm socket for the bolt head, and take that bolt out. All right, so the last thing we're gonna do before we lower this axle down, we don't wanna damage the end of the drive shaft where it meets the transfer case. So we're gonna disconnect it from our axle. So what we're gonna do is take a crown and we're gonna mark where this lines up. That way when we put it back together, we put it back in the same exact spot. After you've done that, you wanna get a bungee ready and a 15mm socket because we're gonna take all 4 of these bolts out, suspend that bad boy up and out of the way. So we're just gonna pry this back a little bit and find a good spot to hang it. So after that, you're gonna lower the axle down enough that you can get these springs out. So we're just gonna lift them up off of the bottom pad and pull them out. So we got the whole front torn apart and we are just about ready to install this new kit, put all that suspension back in. But before we do that, I just want to tell you a little bit about what this kit comes with. Now, why do we want to lift our Jeeps? We want more ground clearance, right? We want to add larger tires. This is going to add to that aggressive look. It's also going to add to the capability of our Wranglers. So most kits, more expensive kits, are going to come with brand new springs and shocks. This is going to cost you a little more. It's also going to change up that ride quality. So if you want a really affordable option to go with, a spacer lift kit is the way to go. Now this kit comes with coil spring spacers. These spacers are going to give you the height. They're gonna retain that factory spring, allow you to reuse that, and that's going to keep that ride quality from the factory. Now since we are pushing the axle further away, we need longer shocks. Instead of adding new shocks and spending all that extra money, we're gonna go with shock relocation brackets. This is gonna add some length to that and allow us to reuse those factory shocks. Now another nice thing about this kit is it comes with brand new sway bar end links. We need longer ones because we are pushing the axle further away. This is gonna flatten out that sway bar and just add to that ride quality. Now this kit is gonna allow you to run larger tires, up to a 35-inch tire, and if you are planning on running larger tires, you'll need bump stops. This kit comes with bump stops front and rear. This is gonna keep you from jamming that tire up into the fender and doing any damage. This kit is incredibly affordable and pretty easy to install since we're reusing all the factory components. So with that being said, let's show you how this gets put back together, what it looks like on the Jeep. First thing we're gonna do is take our factory isolator out. You're gonna have a little rubber isolator out here. We're just gonna pull that up and off of the bump stop. Then we're gonna slide our spring spacer on. Now you're gonna have 2 different spacers. You want the one that looks like this for the front. So that's gonna go up and on there. Then we're gonna put that isolator back on. So after that, we're gonna install our spring. Now we have a bump stop that's actually gonna go on the pad on the axle. So we wanna get that up inside of the spring while we're doing that because we're not gonna be able to fit it through the coils. So we're gonna take the tightly wound section for the top, and we're gonna place that up and in. So with our spring staged, we're gonna get our bump stop up and in there, and we're gonna put this up over the mount. Now there is a stop on the axle, so we wanna turn our little pigtail until it hits that stop. After that, we're gonna bolt this bump stop onto the axle. So you're gonna have a bag of hardware that has 2 silver bolts, 2 silver flat washers, and then 2 gold nuts. This is gonna be for the front bump stops. So we're gonna drop a bolt with a flat washer on there, make sure that it goes through that hole in the axle mount, and then we're gonna put the nut on the bottom. Now it's a pretty hard spot to reach, so I'm gonna use a magnet, try to get up in there, get this thing on. So after you get that on there, we're gonna use a 14mm wrench and a 14mm socket to tighten this up. Now that we have the springs in, the next thing we're gonna do is install our shock brackets. Now you're gonna have longer shock extension brackets. These are for the front. It has a curve in it. We're gonna face that curve towards the front. You're gonna open the bag of hardware and you're gonna have a series of new bolts and these sleeves. These sleeves are to go inside of this. So we're gonna start with this hole first. We're gonna reuse our factory bolt. So what we're gonna do is place this bracket over top of it, just like that. Line these holes up. Then we're gonna place our sleeve inside, pass our factory bolt through. Then we can put the nut back on the other side. Now in that bag of hardware, you're gonna use the smallest bolts that they give you. We're gonna place a flat washer on there. This is gonna go up through the bottom, and then on the inside, we're gonna place this nut. After that, we can tighten all this up. So we're gonna tighten this small bolt first. We're gonna use a 9/16 wrench, 9/16 socket, tighten that up. After that, we're gonna switch to an 18mm socket and a wrench. We're gonna tighten up this factory bolt. In that same kit, you're gonna get 4 gold bolts. We're gonna place a large flat washer on those. And you're gonna have this large flange nut. This is gonna be used for this other bolt hole. So we're gonna raise our axle a little bit, pull our shock down. Once we get that lined up, we'll install that hardware through there. And we're gonna take a 19mm socket, 18mm wrench, and tighten it up. Then you wanna torque that to 55 foot-pounds. After that, we're gonna reconnect our brake lines to our lower control arm. So we're just gonna press that bracket back on there, reinstall that factory nut, tighten it up with a 15. After that, we can do our axle disconnect. So we're gonna plug that back in, push in that white locking tab, and then we wanna put these back into their mounts. After that, we can reinstall our front drive shaft. Now we're gonna reuse those factory bolts. We use a 15mm socket to tighten them all up, then you can torque them to 89 foot-pounds. So we wanna line up those chalk marks. So one of the last steps on the front is to install our brand new sway bar end links. We're gonna use the bent links. We're gonna reuse the factory bolt for the bottom hole. So we're gonna start with that first. Gonna get that lined up, face our bolt in towards the Jeep, and then get that flag nut on there. Now for the top, we're gonna use the brand new hardware that they give us. You're gonna have a bag that's strictly for the sway bar end links. You're gonna have 4 gold bolts, 6 washers, and 4 nuts. So we're gonna place a flat washer on one of the gold bolts. We're gonna go from the outside in, and then we're gonna do a large flange nut on the inside. So once you get both of those links in, we're gonna take an 18mm socket, tighten up the bottom bolt, and then we'll get to the top. Now for the top, you need a 19mm socket, 18mm wrench. Tighten those up, and then you can torque both of these to 55 foot-pounds. Now there's 2 ways that you can do this. You can wait till you're all done, put the wheels and tires back on, sit it on the ground with the weight of the vehicle, and use the steering wheel to line up the track bar with this mount in the frame. Or you can do what we're gonna do and use a ratchet strap. If you are gonna use a ratchet strap up in the air, you need to be really careful because you are dealing with suspension, stuff under tension. So I'm gonna show you how to do it with a ratchet strap right now. So the first thing we're gonna do is find a nice area to hook into the frame. After we find a nice area to hook into the frame, we need to hook the other end to the axle, somewhere where it's not gonna get in the way. After that, we're gonna use our ratchet strap to shift the axle over. This is gonna help us to line this hole up. Once it's close, we're gonna reinstall that factory bolt. Once you get that bolt in, you can reinstall the factory nut, then we're gonna tighten it up with our 21mm. So the next thing we're doing is moving to the rear. First thing we're gonna do is support the axle. This way we can take the track bar out. So we're gonna take the bolt out of the track bar where it meets the axle. We're gonna use a 21mm socket, and there's a flag nut on the back, so you don't need a tool for that. Once we get that out, we're gonna pull this bolt out, and you wanna keep a hand on that because it might drop down a little bit. So the next thing we're gonna do is remove our factory sway bar links. We're gonna start with the bottom bolt. We're gonna take that bolt out with an 18mm socket and a wrench. Now we want to save this factory hardware because we're going to reuse it. So to get the top ones off, it's a little different. We're going to use an 18mm wrench and a 6mm Allen key.
At the end of the axle, right behind the brake rotor, you're going to have a brake line bracket here. We're going to use a 13mm socket
To take that bolt out. Next thing we're going to do is disconnect the bottom of the shock. This is going to be an 18mm socket, 18mm wrench. So the next thing we're going to do is lower the axle down, that way we can get the springs out. We're going to lift them up off of the bottom perch and pull them out. Next, we're going to install our rear coil spring spacers. So you're going to have this washer nut plate. So this is actually going to go on top of the rear spring perch. That's going to sit right over top of that, right like that. Then we're going to take our new 2.5-inch gold bolt and we're going to put that up through our spring spacer. And then we're going to screw it into that nut plate. So once that's in, we're going to take a 3/4 inch wrench, 3/4 inch socket. We're going to center it the best that we can, and then we're going to tighten it up. Next thing we're going to do is take our factory spring. We're going to place our isolator on top of it. So you're going to have a little stop on there. You want to make sure that that lines up with that little pigtail there. Then we're going to put it back in the Jeep. After that, we're going to set the bottom where it was in the factory position. Then we'll put a little tension on it. You can do the same thing for the other side. So after we get that axle up in the air a little bit, we're going to put our brake lines back on. Going to reinstall those factory bolts and use a 13mm on an extension to tighten them back up. So next we're going to install our bump stops on the rear. You're going to have 2 holes in the bottom of this block. We're going to use a small little gold hardware that they give us. So you have these little tiny gold bolts. Each one is going to get a nut and a flat washer. So we're going to place these over these pads on the axle. Then we're going to put the flat washer on the little gold bolt, drop that down through, and then we can install the nut on the bottom. Get both of those in, and then we'll tighten them up with 2 9/16 wrenches. Next, we're going to reinstall our shock relocation bracket. So this is going to have a little bit of an offset. We want to face that towards the rear. This is going to slide over the bracket. And the same thing as the fronts, we're going to have this sleeve that goes inside of here. So we're going to place this sleeve in here, insert our factory bolt all the way through, out the other side, put that factory nut back on. Now for this lower hole, we're going to have a rather large short bolt. This is going to get a flat washer on it. It's going to come up through the bottom and get this large nylon lock nut. So the first thing we're going to do is tighten this bottom one. So we're going to use a 3/4 inch wrench and socket to tighten up this lower bolt. After that, we're going to tighten our factory bolt with an 18mm wrench and socket. So we're going to take the supplied hardware that they give us, place a flat washer on there, and then we're going to use one of these flange nuts. So we'll need to pull down onto the shock to line that hole up, then we can get that bolt through. After you get that installed, we're going to use a 19mm socket for the bolt and an 18mm for the nut.
So after that, we're going to install our brand new end links. We're going to use our factory hardware for the bottom and the supplied hardware for the top. So we're going to start with the bottom. Drop our link down, install our bolt, put the nut on, and then we'll get the top installed. So we're going to take our 12 millimeter by 65 millimeter bolt. We're going to place a flat washer on the head, and then we are going to slide this through our sway bar and then install our flange nut. So to tighten it up, we're going to use a 19 millimeter socket for the bolt head and an 18 millimeter socket for the flange nut. Then to tighten the bottom, we're going to use an 18 millimeter socket, 18 millimeter wrench. So just like the front, you can wait till you get this thing on the ground, get that track bar bolt back in, or you can do it with a ratchet strap. We're going to do it with a ratchet strap. So you want to find a good spot to hook on into the frame. Now this track bar seems to be pretty close, unlike the front, so we shouldn't have to move it too much. So we'll reinstall that factory bolt, put the flange nut on the back side, and then we can tighten it up with a 21 millimeter. So at this point in time, we are all done with the installation of this lift kit. You can go ahead and put your wheels and tires back on, torque them down to factory specs. After that, you want to get an alignment. When you get an alignment, have them recheck all of the fasteners. However, that's going to wrap up my review and install. For more videos like this, check us out at extremeterrain.com.